Dear students, welcome to the second part of chapter 10. Before we move to this part, let us quickly connect it with what we studied earlier. In part 1, we focused on management, obligations, and the concept of social responsibility. We understood how businesses must go beyond profit and consider the interest of stakeholders and society. Now, in this part, we take the discussion one step further. We will explore how power in organizations must be balanced with responsibility, how ethical decisions are made in real situations, and how government regulations ensure the business act in a fair and accountable manner. By the end of this section, you will be able to understand the relationship between power and responsibility in organizations. You will analyze how managers make ethical decisions in different situations. You will also identify the key factors that influence ethical behavior. Further, we will examine real-world case example to understand the importance of ethics in practice. Finally, you will understand the role and different types of government regulations in shaping business conduct. Dear students, we must consider the balance of responsibility with power in an organization. Large corporations have immense social power. Their decisions affect the environment, the economy, and the lives of thousands of people. It is a fundamental ethical rule that anyone with great power must also have great responsibility. If power and responsibility are not balanced, it leads to social unrest. We have seen that social responsibility helps a business stay viable, improve its image, avoids heavy regulations, and balance its immense power. Now, every manager brings their own set of values and beliefs to the job. However, the pressures of organizational life, like meetings, targets, or beating competition, can create a conflict. Sometimes a manager's personal idea of right and wrong may clash with what the company wants them to do. For example, imagine a manager is told to sell a product overseas that is banned in their own country. It might not be illegal, but is it ethical? This tension between personal standards and organizational goals is one of the most difficult parts of being a manager. There are no easy answers, but understanding this conflict is the first step toward ethical leadership. For example, selling a product in another country that is banned in your own country raises serious ethical concerns. Four main factors influences how a manager makes ethical decisions. First is law and order. This defines the minimum standard. For example, deceptive advertising is illegal. Second are government regulations, which set specific standards for product safety or fair competition. Third are industry and company ethical codes. These are written rules that tells a manager how to behave. However, for this to work, they must be enforced. If a code is just a piece of paper that no one follows, it is useless. Fourth are social pressures. This includes groups that use boycotts, lobbying, or media publicity to force a company to change its behavior. Let us look at two famous examples. In 1982, Johnson and Johnson faced a crisis when some Tylenol bottles were tampered with. Even though it cost them millions of dollars, they recalled all products and invested in tamper-resistant seal. They chose social responsibility over short-term profit, and in the long run, they gained immense customer trust. On the other hand, the Union Carbide gas leak in Bhopal, in India, 1984, is seen as a failure of responsibility. The lack of proactive safety measures led to a disaster that harmed thousands. These cases shows that ethical decision making is not just about being nice, it is about the long-term survival and health of the business. We now turn to the role of the government. Governments influence business through the three main factors. First, they affect cost through taxes and the red tape of paperwork. Second, they affect risks by protecting property rights and enforcing contracts. Third, they manage barriers to competition through laws that control how businesses start or go bankrupt. CSR is often driven by the need to meet these regulations. Some experts, like Milton Friedman, argue that governments should set the agenda for social responsibility through laws. This ensures that all businesses follow the same rules and no one is at a disadvantage for being too good. However, government regulation is not perfect. There are two main problems. First, a law cannot cover every single detail. This creates gray areas where companies might follow the letter of the law but not the spirit. An example is General Electric, which spent years in legal battles over cleaning up the Hudson River, delaying the actual work. The second problem is the financial burden. If a regulation is too strict, it might hurt the nation's economy. For instance, in 1997, the Australian government hesitated to comply with the Kyoto Protocol because they feared it would hurt their energy and resources industries. Why does the government regulate in the first place? It is usually to correct market failures, such as when a monopoly controls the whole market or when there is inadequate information for consumers. Regulations also deal with unseen externalities, which are side effects like pollution. Another important category is irreversibility. This refers to the action by the current generation that future generations can never recover from, such as destroying a rainforest or a species. Finally, some regulations exist for social subordination, aiming to reduce the disadvantage of certain social groups and ensure equality. For example, governments impose pollution control laws on factories to protect the environment. In legal terms, a regulation is a form of secondary legislation. The national parliament creates the primary law, but they cannot handle every small detail. Therefore, they allow departments to create secondary rules to implement the law appropriately. This can be statutory instrument, order, or bylaws. In 1997, many governments have been working on better regulation. This means making rules that are efficient and clear, helping the parliament avoid a bottleneck of work while ensuring the public is protected. To conclude our lecture, we have seen that management obligations start within the company by creating a quality system as suggested by Deming. From there, it expands into social responsibility, where the business acknowledges its duty to all stakeholders. We explored how ethical decisions are influenced by personal values, social pressure, and codes of conduct. Finally, we learned that government regulation provide the necessary boundaries to ensure that social costs are minimized and collective goals are met. Now, here is a rhetorical question. As a future manager, will you wait for a law to tell you what to do, or will you take a proactive stance? Answer is the most successful businesses of the future will be those that integrate social responsibility into their core strategy, moving beyond compliances to create genuine social values. Dear student, this is all about chapter 10. Thank you for your attention. Please review the key terms like win-win philosophy, stakeholder theory, and externalities as you prepare for your exam. Thank you very much.